Hello there, my friends. Hope you're having a truly magical day today. Welcome back to the show. Glad you're here. Glad we're chatting today. Today's topic is one that I think a lot of people have been talking about recently. Things that we really want Disney to get back to make them that magical place that we know and love. Now, on this show, just for reference, I like to talk about some of those details in terms of Florida living or Disney, cruising, all that good stuff. I have a lot to share in the coming weeks and months ahead. Got some big trips, and it's going to be a combination of videos you can find on the YouTube channel and more of the longer form podcast style that I've been really enjoying. It's just a great way for us to kind of just chat about some of the things that have been going on. But let's get into it. Let's talk about Walt Disney World in Florida. I want to be very clear. I'm talking about Disney World, not Disneyland, but you could technically take the same things. In recent years, more or less kind of months than years, there have been quite a few issues with Disney. They've seen crowds begin to dwindle. They have issues at the movie theater. They have all sorts of problems. And in recent days, their stock price has been hitting lows that we haven't seen in a long time. They've been losing, and I believe this is close to about $1 billion with a B dollars in some of the missed opportunities that they've made. But that's the company as a whole. That's not Disney World. I want to be very, very clear, right? So Disney as a company, if the movie is losing that amount of money, but it does relate, and it kind of gets back to the parks. But let's talk about what they've done recently. So let's kind of go back in time a little bit. Disney, over the years, has been putting out surveys, right? And a lot of us have actually kind of taken almost our own little surveys in terms of what has been happening at Walt Disney World and how they can continue to improve. And many people over the years have said, hey, you know what, Disney, let's go ahead and maybe change things up and make it a little less crowded in the park, right? Do you remember way back when we would all say, oh my gosh, it's too crowded. Disney's got to do something about the crowds. Please, Disney, fix the crowds. Too much. And Disney had a choice to make, right? They chose, I want to be very clear, they chose the option where you raise prices and you lower the crowds because not as many people can afford it. Now, a lot of us were, mixed on these thoughts in terms of Disney. Like, okay, you want to raise the prices so crowds go down. I mean, maybe, but then the average family can't really afford to go. And that's not really the vision of Walt Disney World, right? So the other option, which they did not choose, is to expand, right? So if you look at Universal Studios Orlando, they are opening Epic Universe. I've talked about it recently. I'm very, very excited about it. I will become an annual pass holder again, and I will be enjoying Epic Universe for a long time. I can already tell you that. But they have decided, in preparation for what's coming next, they chose the other side of the coin, right? So Disney decided to raise prices and keep things relatively simple and kind of improve the infrastructure. At least that was their plan. At first, build new hotels. Many of them did not get built because they lost a lot of money all of a sudden. The other side of it would have been build another park, right? That's the other way that they could have reduced crowds, right? Because you have more places for people to go. So you expand to keep the fun. You make more money, so everybody wins, and it doesn't feel as crowded. Boom, like there you go. Or the option they chose, raise prices. Okay, so they chose raise prices. What has this done? This has priced out a lot, and I mean a lot, of working families. Families who, I would imagine, this is not a real figure, make up about 90% of Walt Disney World's traffic is just, families, just regular families ready to go and experience the fun. So let's go ahead and look back and figure out how Disney can get back to that greatness. Yes, building in our park is essential. They got to do this. But they've also, there's no question, lost a step in terms of creating that magical experience. So we've gone back in time a bit and done a little bit of research all the way from September 2021-ish, right? That's where these figures are coming from. And we're going down the top 10 reasons why families, we're talking about families and individuals, would come to Walt Disney World. And we're ranking them, right? So number one is the one that's like, okay, most people agree here. And number one on our list, in terms of why people go to Walt Disney World, is the magical experience. Simple and straight. This one doesn't involve families. It could be adults, children, a whole family together, but going and getting that magical experience, feeling the magic as you walk in. Many of us have described it that way for a long time, and that's kind of the vision of Walt Disney. If you go back and watch One Man Stream, big fan of it, inside of Hollywood Studios, he talks about his vision, his hope to bring the family together. You don't have to just sit on the sidelines. You can go as a family and enjoy the fun. That is something that Disney really has kind of grown from, and it's really amazing how that was such a magical experience for so long. The second reason, and this is big, the number two reason why people visited Walt Disney World, again, data from 2021, so things change, but keep that in mind, is family bonding. All right, so they're looking at the reasons why the entire family is together. So that is number 2 on our list of 10, and it relates directly to Walt Disney's vision of a place where the entire family can come together and have fun. So number 2 on the list of people who were a part of the survey said it's about the family bonding. In my opinion, Disney is not focusing on that as they used to. And this is a bigger part of the problem than just increasing prices. Yes, increasing prices is a problem. There's no question, right? And Disney, I think Iger himself recently has said they overestimated the pricing, right? So that's an issue. How much are they going to change it? I don't know. But they did confirm they feel like they did maybe go too hard on that price increase button. I think they just went nuts on it. But anyway, the family bonding is a piece that you really don't, see highlighted quite as much. Like we see, and I'm one of them, right? I'm not there with little kids. I'm an adult going by myself or with, friends. So, I'm not part of that. I totally appreciate that. But when I was a kid, that's what brought me to it, was the family bonding. And I'm going to actually get to another point here, which is another part of the survey here, which kind of relates to those of us who go as adults. So I'm saying if you go as an adult and you don't have kids, or maybe like your significant other or with friends, it doesn't matter, right? You can still go and have fun. Not saying that you have to have a family to go to Disney World, but that's the second most popular reason for people to visit Disney. So we're all saying, okay, why are the crowds so low? This is definitely part of it. All right, number 3 on the list is the iconic characters, right? So everybody knew Mickey. Most people around the world know Mickey Mouse, Cinderella, other characters that we know and love from when we were children. We'd watch these shows on TV. Nowadays, kids aren't watching those shows nearly as much, and there are many who believe that this is a part of the problem, right? You look at some of the shows that Disney Plus has been putting out recently, and they're not just simply not as popular as they were way back in the day, right? You think of Steamboat Willie, you're like, okay, that's exciting, but that's way back when. This is way back in time now. When we're thinking about the 90s, thinking about Disney and the gang, Mickey and the gang going out and having a great time, and all these great characters that we know and love, and the movies and the stories, and then you'd be able to meet the characters. And Disney tried to do that a bit. Like if you look at the meet and greets that they have around Walt Disney World, where they're trying to bring in some of the characters that we know and love from those movies, it was working for a while. It really was. People would come on their trips simply to meet joy and sadness. Do you remember that? Do you remember when they had that Colortopia area inside Innoventions? People were coming just to meet joy and sadness. It was the biggest thing. Meet joy and sadness, meet Baymax. Those were great characters, and people came for the characters. Nowadays, Disney's doesn't have the same character connection. It's not building that connection with the individuals, and it's leading to this feeling of, why am I going? To meet characters? I don't even know the names of the characters. So it's one of those things that definitely plays into it. All right, number 4 on our list is the wide array of attractions, right? So you've got your standard roller coaster. I'm thinking, when I say standard, okay, Big Thunder Mountain, is that really standard? No, but you get the idea. But you've got your roller coaster. You've got Rise of the Resistance, also a roller coaster. It's like a dark ride, but also kind of more intense. You got the smaller rides for maybe Barnstormer for little kids. You've got walking around Epcot. So you've got a really diverse array of attractions available to you that make sure that all the family members have a great time. And for a long time, we've talked about how you can be a teen, you can be an adult, you can be a kid, you can have a great time. It does tie in quite a bit to that family bonding that we mentioned in point number 2, but it's just one of those things that it's in the survey that Disney was a big part of it for those who were visiting. So, all right, moving on. Number 5 on the list of, remember, this is part of that survey in 2021. Wow, is the entertainment and shows. We're talking about live performances, Finding Nemo, Lion King. You've got the parades, which, I got to tell you, the nighttime parade idea coming back to Magic Kingdom, that was number 5 in 2021 for parades and interactive shows. Yes, they have Festival of Fantasy, and they have other, some small things. But are you seeing a parade walking around World Showcase? Many people may not know that there was one way back when. I can't remember the name of it. But it walked around World Showcase. You can look it up Epcot Parade. And they walk around, I think it was part of the 2000 celebration, something like that, or Celebrating Humanity, something about that. But they had these live performances that people love. That was number 5 on the list. Number 6 on the list is themed dining. All right, so this is big. I think that Disney in the past has done a really good job with dining, right? I think about the theming that you see. So let's just take, there's so many examples of themed dining. But okay, so Roundup Rodeo Barbecue. That's the most recent high intensity themed dining that I can think of at Hollywood Studios. I went recently, I recorded it, it's on the YouTube channel, you can check it out. But in my opinion, this was great theming, marginal food, right? It was okay food, and it was way overpriced for the food, the experience you're getting. Why is that? Because it all was nice. I love the interior. The way they decorated it was so nice. Oh my gosh, so nice. But no live characters came out and greeted everyone. You remember Chef Mickey's of the past? And currently, it's true, but not quite the same now. I know there's been some differences, but Chef Mickey's is, I think, the other side of that coin, right? Many of us who went in the 90s and all that, we remember Chef Mickey's as like the place, right? The place. You go to Chef Mickey's, you have breakfast with Mickey and friends, they all dance around having fun. Does that still happen? Yes, it does. It's, again, a little different. It's a little different, but it's still fun. Roundup Rodeo Barbecue, which a lot more theming, right? You go to Chef Mickey's, you're like, okay, Michael, there's a train going through. That's it. It's true, but there's that other piece of it where the characters are walking through. Roundup Rodeo Barbecue, you got none of that. So this is one of those things that I think has changed the dynamic a bit. Yes, we go in, we see the Toy Story characters. How many times are you going to repeat Roundup Rodeo Barbecue? I've been to Disney, when I was a kid, I was thinking about it. I went so many times, and I would go to Chef Mickey's, I'm not going to say every time, but most times we went. And it was one of those things that we could look forward to every single time. So I think theme dining is something that Disney is doing, but needs to kind of get back to their roots. And I think it will play a big role in that. Next up, number 7, special events and seasons, right? So in the past, a big part of it in 2021 was special events like Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party or the Epcot International Food and Wine Festival. Do those things still happen? Yes, they do. But the problem is, here's the issue, in my opinion. These experiences have been done. They've been done. They have been done to the fullest, and there is almost nothing changing every year. I enjoy it. Many people enjoy it, but you know exactly what to expect, and nothing's new and exciting with these things. So it's not quite as inspiring for people to come back and say, you know what, I'm going to spend all this money and all this time, and I'm going to go to Disney, and I'm going to do the exact same thing I did last year. It's just one of those things that I think Disney has to continue to innovate in these arenas, right? So Not So Scary. Let's just take Universal. And for fairness, I have not been to Halloween Horror Nights, although I keep getting my arm twisted by friends to go. Eventually, maybe I'll try it. But Halloween Horror Nights, from what I understand of it, it changes the theme every year. It's something that people are really excited about. Super long lines. Every year you can go back and see something, not maybe completely different, but there are adjustments, pretty big adjustments, where you can see maybe a different haunted house or a different theme, right? So it's something different each time where you can look forward to it. People are lined up for Halloween Horror Nights. Not So Scary does not quite sell out in the same way. So it's something really important that I think Disney's got to look into. How can they continue to adapt it and change it to make it unique so we want to come back and experience it again and again? And other things, of course, food and wine, flower and garden, etc. There's more they can do without doubt. Number 8 on this list is the renowned high-quality service. This is something that I think some people don't want to acknowledge it, and that's okay, but the customer service has taken a major drop at Disney. This is not a rag on cast members. Cast members are the lifeblood of Walt Disney World, and I think they should be paid more, in my opinion. However, the customer service that we are seeing that has diminished over the past couple of years, I believe, is a direct correlation with poor leadership. That's me, all right? People can disagree, that's okay. But I think that when people feel inspired by their leaders, they feel like they can continue to grow and expand and do things that make them feel fulfilled and have those opportunities to do those things, right? So let's pretend you're in guest services behind the desk at Art of Animation. And you love it, you're having a great time. And you say to your leader, oh my gosh, I'd love to go the other resorts and see how they are, right? If you can't have that conversation and continue to feel fulfilled and like you're doing something productive and you can move up and all these things, then there's no feeling of enjoyment with what you're doing every day, and there's no quality within your job, and then the quality of service to the customer goes down. You can push as many customer service trainings as you want, but if the person does not feel fulfilled, there's nothing. And Walt was big on making cast members feel important, really, really important. And they had a huge mission. There was something to accomplish. There was accomplishment at the end of the day. Disney's got to really dive deeper into, protecting their people and, making their people a valued part of their business. That's critical, absolutely critical to the high quality service that we've come to enjoy and many have felt has taken a dip in the other direction. My opinion, and a couple others maybe, but at least in my opinion, that's for sure. Number 9 is immersive theming. The fact that this is here is great to see in the 2021 survey. However, it's interesting to note that Disney's clearly not paying any attention to this because, yes, Roundup Rodeo Barbecue is really intense theming. That's great. But if you look at some of the concept art for some of the new places that they're putting together, like the lobby of the Grand Floridian, and many of us are a little worried about that new building for the Polynesian, which looks like a gigantic eyesore at the moment. It's a question of, are they going to continue with the immersive theming? And a big issue here is that a lot of the really creative folks who have made all of this possible over all the years are no longer working there. And I'm not saying that everybody's gone, not at all. But there was a big reduction in staff and all this during all the closures, and I get that. I totally get that. But the fact that Disney didn't kind of go back to them or really get the creatives back in a big way once things were ramping up, and they had a big, there was a big number of people who were coming back to Disney. Even Iger admits this after things opened up, and they were one of the first to open up. They should have hired the creatives back right then and gotten right back to work. They didn't. And this is an issue, and I think will continue to be an issue until the immersive theming returns. That's just my opinion. Number 10, and this is the one I was getting to earlier. I was kind of alluding to it before I mentioned it, is the nostalgia and sentimental value that people feel when they go to Walt Disney World. Now, does this mean that you have to have gone in the 90s in order to really appreciate Disney today? No, not at all. People go today for the very first time, have a great time. But there's a big piece of it. I don't know the percentage, but I would imagine a not large, but let's pretend, just for the sake of argument, 10 to 15% of people who go to Disney on an average basis, right, are going back because of the nostalgic feel. How long is that going to last, right? That's not going to continue if they don't feel the nostalgia that they had when they were younger. And remembering the family bonding, as we mentioned in point number 2, in terms of Walt Disney World, right? This is something that needs to be addressed. Now, on that same note, when you're going back and you're remembering the great times, it's great. If you go back and there's massive confusion with Genie Plus and Lightning Lane and all this, which I've heard so many times at this point, it begs the question, is it really nostalgic if it's this confusing? I love it. I'm not trying to just rag on, and people saying, okay, I'm just trying to rag on Disney. No, not at all. I'm trying to kind of fix the issues. There are so many issues right now that Disney just needs to fix. And I think that by looking at it from the lens of the customer-centric, and making sure you value each and every customer as if they're the only ones holding up the whole company. That's what has to go back to. I don't know if you were there. I'm talking about the 90s and early 2000s when Disney was really just dedicated, and they would put everything on the line to make sure that every customer was so happy. Now, people are not allowed into the most popular attractions at Walt Disney World because they weren't up at 7 a.m. to get a boarding group or virtual queue. It boggles the mind in terms of the direction that they've gone. I know a lot of people, look, do I like the virtual queue? As a local, as someone who understands everything, or not everything, but a lot of these nuances of doing stuff at Disney, yes, I like it personally. Do I think it's good for the company in the long term? No, I don't. I really don't. And this is just one of those things that, and I've talked about it in a different episode. You can go listen to that one in terms of how they can fix that and the Lightning Lane and, how, a better model for it. We've spoken about that in terms of the, maybe having a 7, an 8, a 9, a 10, boarding group and all that. But it's just one of those things that I think Disney needs to look at. And I hope they will in the future. And as things continue to change, we've heard a lot of, rumors about, selling the company and all that. I do want to touch on that for a second because it's relevant. Right, Comcast, as an example, owns Universal. Right, so Comcast is a giant company, and they own Universal. The idea that Disney could sell big portions of the company to, and the popular rumor is Apple. Right, I've heard of that rumor too. The idea they could sell to Apple is, in my opinion, a good thing. It really is, and I know that there's a lot of feelings about this in terms of, oh my gosh, it's going to be bad. From my experience, from what I've read and seen, Apple, when they kind of take over a company, it really depends on the market that they're in. If they understand the tech part, right? So for like a camera on their iPhone, they are going to take it all the way. That's their thing. Off it goes to Apple. For something that they acquire, in terms of a business incentive, they're going to do things that work for them, of course, but they're also going to kind of make sure, at least at first, that those creatives who made it great way back when can continue to come back and make it that wonderful place that we all enjoy, right? So that's one of those things that I think Disney, may encounter in the future. There's a plethora of questions in terms of how this would play out, and of course it's going to be a long journey if we do hear of some acquisition, but it's been rumored for a long time, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like that did happen. So those are my thoughts, and I really do hope that Disney kind of pays attention to all this. And they've been trying, I think, in some respects, and I know that some of the probably mid-level managers, maybe some of the senior folks understand the issues. But I think it's a longer process, and it needs to work out. And eventually, I really do hope that they do work it out and they bring back the magic that we know and love. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this episode, and it's a lot of fun to talk it through with you and have the long form content. Really is. I enjoy it, and I hope to continue to do it. So thanks again for listening in. A huge thanks to our Patreon production team for making all of our content possible. Till next time, have a magical day, everybody. See you real soon.